G'day folks, Pakira here and welcome to a new series on the channel, Farming Simulator 22 Tutorials, How To The Basics. The aim of this mini series will be to show you how to get set up and with the basics. Especially useful, I hope, for those who are new to the Farming Simulator 22 or the Farming Simulator series as a whole. So today's episode we will get stuck in and show you how to start a new save game or a career. We will also go over the very much basics and have a look at the game settings and the initial UI and what to expect. And just note, a lot of these will be based off my experiences playing FS22. So let's get stuck in. So this is the main menu. You can hear the cool groovy music. You've got all the options here. We'll go through those another time. Downloadable content is known as the mod hub as well. Now we'll click into career. Once you've come into this section here, it should look blank if you haven't played this game before. Pretty much like this. What you do is just double click into one of these blank slots and then you'll come up with 3 game level options: easy, medium and hard mode. So it pretty much tells you a little bit about it. Basically, yeah, for easy mode, which we will choose today and which I will recommend to you, is you own some land and some very basic starting equipment. The economy is easy for you and the settings are pretty much set on easy. So easy mode, easy settings. So let's have a look and get stuck in. You now come to the map selection. So there's 3 base maps in Farming Simulator 22. There's Elm Creek, which is based on the USA. There's Berlin, which is a French themed map. Then you've also got Uhlengrad, which is kind of like the Swiss German Alps. Okay, so we're going to start in my favorite, which is Elm Creek here. So just press continue. Now if you're running mods or you have any DLCs, this is where they'll appear. This is where you can select or deselect them. Now for this whole series we are using no mods and none of the DLCs. So I'm going to deselect all there. You can see they're not ticked. Then we'll press start. I think by using no mods or no DLCs, it's the best way to learn the game, because you learn the game at its most very basic level using default equipment and default game play options. Okay, so we'll get to 100, we'll press enter to jump in and we go straight into the character creation mode. You can name your player here by changing the name, which we will do just for this tutorial. Trevor, he's Trevor today. You got male and female board heads to choose from. Then you can go down and change all the other options here, outfits, or if you choose to you can go into individuals. Okay, but you can go through that at your own leisure. So we are going to confirm what I have already done, and you'll throw you into the map and straight away it'll come up with this prompt on Elm Creek and also Berlin. I'm not too sure if it does it for Uhlengrad. However, welcome to Farming Simulator. Would you like to start a short guided tour? This will show you the basics of the game. I've never done this personally myself. I would recommend to select yes, just to go through the short tour, and hopefully it will give you a better understanding, or at least some sort of an understanding of what you can expect. So we'll go to no here. Again, gives you a reminder if you want to ever do it back. So you start here at the house. Well, we are in Elm Creek. You can just I'm using the mouse to look around, and you'll see these little trigger points here. But let's have a quick look at the UI as it stands initially. So we'll start here on the top right of your screen. You'll see there that we have $100,000. So in easy mode, you do have $100,000 in the bank. You already own land on the farm with equipment, so 100,000, good enough to kick you off. Next to that we see the time there, and I'm going to press 8, and if you watch that little fast forward button where that 5 is, that'll go up to 10. It can go up to a max of 360, or you can chop it down to 0.5. You can also press the pause button and that'll pause the game. Pause button again unpauses the game. Next to the time scale there we have the month, which is August, and the season, which is summer by the sun. Next to that you have the sun, which is today's weather. Okay, and sometimes there might be another one which will give you kind of like the forecast. At the moment, forecast, the weather is sunny. we'll flick over there to the top left, and that's where we kind of like a help menu. If you press F1, it will disappear for you. On by default, it's on. I'd recommend staying and leaving it on until you get comfortable with the basic controls of the equipment and just movement in general. So you can see here it's giving us R for sleep, and that's because we are standing next to this trigger point here. If we move away from it, it will disappear and just give us one more. Okay. Now down below the left there we have the mini map. It's so as it says at the top, 9 is a toggle map view. So we'll go through and do that. So mini map, what will happen? Hopefully you can see in the middle of that mini map there's kind of like a little triangle, and it will move around. Now if you look at the map as well, the map itself is moving with us. Okay. You can see the circle changes. Now if I press 9, it goes to a square. Now we can move, our little icon moves, but the map itself stays static. It does not move. We press 9 again. It'll give us a larger map. So it gives you the overall map of the whole area of Elm Creek. So straight away you can see there's a lot of fields there and some good variety in sizes. Press 9 again, it all disappears. Press 9 one more time, it'll bring it up. I like the circle. So that is the basic UI. There is other UIs that will appear. The help menu will show more options when we're into things like vehicles, but we will show those and talk about those when we're in any vehicles in future episodes. For today, I'm going to try and keep it as basic as I can. Let's jump into the main menu, the escape button. This again, it gives you an overview of our map, and it is color coded to represent the colors or the types of crops here. As you can see on the right hand side, wheat and the color for barley, canola. You can click on one of these and it will disappear. So if we zoom in on our farm here, you can see there's no colors on these 3 fields. We click on wheat, we can see 44 and 45 have wheat on it. This is our starting farm. The way you can tell is because the fields for starters will be highlighted with the blue numbers, but the best way to find out what else you may own is just press X here in farmland, and you'll see how this is all in a blue highlight, if you like. So this is all our land here that we own, including the 3 fields and everything in that zone. Press X again, it'll just give us back to the default filters. Quickly touch on the filters. So this shows you what crops it is. So does this. Grass is off by default, so be aware. It shows you growth stages as filters. Again, you can take these off, and sometimes you'll need to see the underlying filter. And there's also soil composition filters, and also just the hotspots for productions, equipment and things, which you can turn off as well. Just show you that. So in the map here, we can go down to the helper menu. This is where you can give your AI helpers jobs to do. We'll touch on that at a different time. The calendar. So this is a crop calendar. We will go into more details on all of these options when we cover them, but just giving you an oversight at the moment. You can see we always start in August, pretty much the end of summer here, and it gives you the months there, the season, winter, spring, summer, and autumn, but for Americans, fall, and a list down here all the crops that are available. The key down here, planting and harvest. Okay. The weather, pretty straightforward. Today's weather, and gives you hourly forecasts with wind as well, and also looking ahead. Prices per 1,000 litre for all the crops. Okay, this is not a map tool, so I'm not going to go through down and show you what every crop is individually. You can do that yourself, but because it will change per map. But it gives you a good idea. You can just go through down here. You can end up doing things like furniture if through production chains. There's a vehicle overview. This is the vehicles that you will own. So it gives you how long you've owned it, how many hours you've used the vehicle or the equipment for, the repair state, if it's been used or not, and also the value. This is your bank, your finances screen with the loan amount if you do have a loan, which we don't have. You can borrow money here and repay it here. Any animals? We don't have any animals. Any contracts? There is a current contract. We'll talk about that later. Production chains, again, something for the future. And then some stats as well. So let's go into the game settings. Now what I normally do is, first thing I usually do is press escape, go into my game settings and name it. Okay, once I've done the name, I just like to press save straight away. Again, a lot of these options I'll talk about and change will be based off what I prefer. Okay, now the autosave interval is set at 15 minutes. I usually have it set off and I manually save it myself. However, probably just for a while, maybe leave it at the default for 15 until you get your feet wet. That way, if you do make any mistakes and you want to try and fix it, it's something you can think of, but just be wary that every 15 in-game, in-game real minutes, it will auto-save. So if you make a mistake, you want to correct it, feel free to exit the game straight away. Timescale. So again, like I showed you before with the UI, you can press 7 and 8. So 8 to increase the timescale, 7 to decrease. You can do it here and set a default. I usually set a default of 15. I usually run 2 days per season. I think 15, the time goes quite fast, but not too fast and not too slow. I'm going to put it down to 5, possibly another good recommendation. Economic. Difficulty, easy. You are in easy mode. Again, after a while, you might want to crank that up. Traffic is on. I recommended leaving it on. Seasons. Okay, so seasonal growth is on by default. Look, personally, I still reckon, even though this is very basic for you, I still reckon to keep it on. It just adds a little bit of, realism, if you like, to it, and it's something you can just easily learn and go through in the background. What it does mean is, like, after certain seasons, if you haven't got your crop out on time or harvested, you'll lose your crop. It'll wither and die. Days per month. So each day, okay, per month, and then 3 months. Every 3 months is obviously a new season. I always run with 2 days, but I think on Elm Creep with the basic for the first start, I think you should be able to get everything done in 1 day. So perhaps just leave that on and just see, because you've only really got one field to harvest, and you'll be able to get that done easily in the first day, and then you can go through and with the other 2 fields and get everything done. But again, 1 day should be fine. I personally recommend 2 days. Fixed visual month means you just stay in whatever month you like. I would leave it off. Snow, up to you. I'm happy with snow. Crop destruction, I leave it on. That means if you're driving through a field that's got crops on it with the wrong tyres, so standard tyres generally, you will destroy the crops that you drive over. Periodic ploughing. Okay, I recommend dealing with ploughing eventually. We will in this series, but for now I would say just leave it off, maybe for this first year of rotation, and then maybe you want to plop it on for your coming up to your second year, just to have a go at it. Fieldstones, lime and weeds, they are on by default. I recommend leaving them on. We will touch on those anyway in this series. Adds a little bit of a game, and it just lets you experience it once if you don't like it. And then vehicle controls, just normal. Automatic engine start, I recommend turning this off. That means when you get into a vehicle, you have to manually push a key that you were assigned to turn the engine on and to turn the engine off. It's just what I prefer. But by default, it's on. Up to you. Stop and go braking, self-explanatory. You press the brake pedal and you keep pressing that automatically. It will start reversing once you've come to a full stop, and if you leave your foot on the brake. Trailer full limit, I recommend leaving that on, leaving it off. And fuel usage, again, it's low for a reason. It's easy mode. Leave that on because you'll hardly ever have to worry about fuel for a while, and it's one less thing to worry about. You can change these options later on as well. AI workers, one thing I would recommend is turning all this to off, because if you do hire a worker to help you, and you probably don't need to do that at this stage, but if you do and you forget about these options, they'll start costing you money by trying to buy things like seeds if they run out, when you probably want to control that yourself. What I do is when I'm happy with that, I'll press save again, and then I'll come down to the general settings. Help window, leave it on. It's the F1 key. You can manually press F1 to bring that up or not. Obviously pretty straightforward. Interactive zone markers, so that's what we saw when I looked at the house with that marker there to sleep, that big eye icon, and also yellow and black markers as well, so it will show you where you need to drop off, say, your crops and things like that. Ideal, leave it on. I still leave it on as well. Info trigger off by default. I would leave it off. If you turn it on, what it does, if we turn it on here and then just go save game, I'll try and show you. It will see there's a question mark there. So this question mark will just, if you just hover over it or go into it, okay, press R, it'll just tell you a little bit about it. That is a personal preference of mine to leave it off. You could find it handy, but once you've read it for the first time, it will never go away. So that's why I reckon to just go off, because I'll show you how you can read all that down there. Field info on. When you walk up to a field, it'll give you some basic info. I'll show you that I'll show you that now. So again, the UI in the lower right will change. So this is that field info setting. Tells you who owns the field, the type of crop it is, the growth stage, any yield bonuses, any fertilizing state, and any extra information. So that's the field icon info there. Okay, so if I turn that off, it's disappeared. The rest is pretty much up to you. If I have Elm Creek going, so I use all the American units. All the rest is pretty much up to you. You can play around with, and also all these input controls, gear shift mode. So this one here is set to automatic for gears. I always have it on automatic. I don't have a shifter, so it's up to you. If you do have a shifter, maybe you want to play around with that as well, and sound and everything else. Okay, so save the game here. And keybinds, again, they're all set for you, and you can just scroll through these, make a note, and just change them if you're used to a certain other sim that might have similar keys. Okay, again, a lot of these you can change in the main menu, which is a good idea for keybinds especially. That way you can allocate them there, save them there, and when you go into a new save, it will automatically be as you've set it in the main menu. And lastly, guys, there is the help menu here. It's basically like a little handbook. It will go through from basic economy, farming basics, how to improve yield, and just a variety. And it just doesn't overwhelm you, but it does give you a little bit of information, enough to kind of have an idea, hopefully. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is all we have today. That's all we will deal with in this episode. The next episode I will start touching on a bit more things in particular. We will also have a look at the starting equipment. Okay folks, I'm going to leave it there for you. We will be next episode back with you, and we will again, what we'll do is start the next episode. We will cover the basic vehicles that you start the farming in a bit more detail, and I'll try and explain, best of my knowledge, what a lot of the things are and what I look out for in the vehicles before we get stuck in next few episodes. We will start with the harvest. Alright folks, if you've got any questions or any queries or any suggestions on more tutorials, or you want me to clarify anything, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below, and I'll happily answer you either directly in the comment as a reply, or perhaps in the next video. Till then, take care of yourselves and each other. I am Pakira as always. Kia kaha.